Hey everybody, we're here for a new episode of the show that is yet to be named. I'm here with Caps, Muscles Marinara, the Sauce Boss. Today we got a light episode. We'll be back with some new stuff next week. For now, we're just going to get out of the way the news of the day. All right, so there's a lot of rumors going around. Well, how are you, by the way?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. So we'll just get it out of the way quick. Some news I saw today about a bunch of goalies that may be on the block. I just wanted your thoughts of if they're likely to go. It may be, we'll see. So Braden Holtby from Dallas, Marc-Andre Fleury we already know about, Jonas Korpisalo from Columbus, Simeon Varlamov from the Islanders, Alexander Georgiev from the Rangers, and Jonathan Quick from the Kings. I know our number one talk, and I guess we're gonna have to segue to this eventually, but is Edmonton needing a goalie? Do you think any of these guys are Edmonton bound?
I think, with the exception of Quick, all those goalies are put on the trade block to create cap space for those teams' real goals of people they want to bring over.
Yeah.
So any team that wants to create a trade target with someone will, have a leak and put out there that this goal is available, just so they can hear trade offers. Going back to your question of whether or not Edmonton needs a goalie, absolutely they need a goalie. It's come to my attention now, with the exception of last night. Koskinen played very well. Probably won the game for the Oilers. But is he the type of goalie that you could depend on each and every night that you put him in there? Because based on what I've seen lately, is just not happening. I don't know the cap hit for Jonathan Quick, but Jonathan Quick may be a good 1-2 punch with Koskinen, because it seems as though Smith has not been able to stay healthy.
It's
and that's going to be a
million.
problem. Yeah, that's definitely a problem for Edmonton, because they need a stable goalie going into the playoffs. And if your other goalie is not there, then you're screwed. They're going to have to definitely look at LA to retain some of the salary if need be. Well, no, it's actually, they need it. But you said Korpisalo. Korpisalo may be a good addition for Edmonton.
I think he's young and he's talented. That could be a good one.
Yeah, it comes down to how they're able to fit within the cap, because a lot of teams are struggling right now with the cap.
Yeah.
What do you think?
To be honest with you, I think there's a few teams that could make moves here for goalies.
You didn't even mention Marc-Andre Fleury, because they're saying Marc-Andre Fleury's on.
Oh, I did. He's on here. He's on here.
Is he? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. No, but we've talked about Marc-Andre Fleury to death, and I feel like that's probably the best option, especially since Chicago is most likely going to be LA too. They're probably the two teams in the best position to retain a lot of cap from those goalies. But Varlamov's experience, and he's arguably better than both of those goalies at this point in his career. I don't know if he's your guy. Georgiev is like up and down. Holtby can be good depending on the situation, and the Oilers don't have that type of situation to protect him. Korpisalo seems like the most logical. If you're going long term, if you're trying to win this year, it's got to be Fleury or Quick, and I don't think they can afford it. I
think Edmonton is looking for long term.
Yeah, there's a few teams that could use goalies. I'm not going to read too deep into this because it's still early. We're not even close to the deadline yet. So let's see how this plays out. But in terms of Edmonton, which we're already on, we might as well stay here. I didn't even have this written down, but I just recalled that it happened this week. And I think Dave Tippett, it's time for Dave Tippett to hit the exit. He made a lot of really stupid comments this week towards Koskinen and Draisaitl. And I understand that you're losing and you're upset, but like you don't just throw your whole team under the bus like that. It's pretty crazy. And then they've been picking at Draisaitl, like you said to us. The media is trying to get him to throw people under the bus. So
yeah, as a teammate, I think Draisaitl did the right thing by not throwing his teammates under the bus, because that's not what you do as a teammate. He gave the political answer, and that is the whole team needs to get their
but they do
together. They do. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but shame on the public relations department for not stepping in and being like, hey, you asked a question, you got an answer. Stop trying to provoke the players. You can get the hell out of here if you're going to keep acting like that. Because, with the way we are, if we were on that podium and somebody asked us why we're being so pissy, I would tell them to go themselves and get the hell out.
Yeah. In the NBA or the NFL, 100%, someone would have walked up on stage and took the person and walked them out. They wouldn't even have allowed the questioning to continue.
Which is stupid. So I'm sorry, I have to ask because I might have missed it somewhere, but what exactly did Dave Tippett say about Draisaitl?
I'm going to have to look that up, so we'll come back to that in a second. But I just want your thoughts. I'm in the process of doing it, so don't worry. But do you, comments aside, do they need a coaching change?
Man, that's hard. If you would have asked me a week ago, I would have said no. But it just seems as though they're spiraling, and I don't know if there's any way of getting out of it unless a change is made. Now, when me, you, and Bargo got together last and talked about this, we talked about the fact that there were two groups of players in the change room. I don't know if that's the case, to be honest with you. It's funny though that McDavid, I really haven't heard from McDavid that much in the last little bit.
Yeah.
It's more Draisaitl is actually talking these days. But in terms of making a change, I really do hope that they come out of this. I don't know necessarily if a coaching change is necessary, because he's only been in this role for what? Is it 2 years now?
I want to say 3.
I would have to look that up. I think he came into this role when the GM came in, or just before the GM came into this role, Ken Holland. But it also shows that particular team, the Edmonton Oilers, are lacking depth. And I know you've mentioned it before, Bargo's mentioned it before, but they're really good when they're fully healthy. But when they're not healthy, it really exposes their depth. And I think that's their biggest issue. Their defense have not been able to stay healthy throughout the whole season. So I don't know.
Well, okay. So as far as I've seen, because like I said, I didn't remember it off the top of my head, but he basically just gave it to Koskinen for playing bad in that game, and then he blamed Draisaitl for being pissy and upset. So, I mean, I feel like there's certain things you don't do as a coach, and one is talk about your players like that to the media before you even have talked to the players about it. Like if you're gonna talk crap about Draisaitl as the coach, go talk to him first, and then you can talk to the media. Because would you want the guy to find out how you feel through the newspaper before you've even talked to the guy? You know what I mean? Do you want him watching SportsCenter and seeing that you called him a pissy crybaby before you actually have talked to him?
I've never heard that, to be honest with you, Campbell'S. I've never heard him say that about Draisaitl. I have heard his comments about Koskinen, and good on Koskinen for standing up for himself and saying, hey, listen, I'm not the only one that is not doing well on this team. Everybody needs to step up. And he's right. Everybody does need to step up. So does that fix the problem? Not necessarily. Did you have to step up? You know what I mean?
You need. I just feel like you definitely need a coaching change.
Okay.
That's the way it is. Okay, so we'll go on from there. We'll move on. Just quick news. On Friday, Clark Gillies passed away. Former captain of the Islanders. He was there for the 4 cups. 2-time All-Star, made it to the Hall of Fame. Just R.I.P. You know, a pretty legendary guy for that era. Continuing on, so Ovechkin has 58 points at the halfway mark at 36 years old. The only player ever to have that many points at the halfway part of the season at this old of an age was Mario Lemieux. At 37, he had 68 points, that's ridiculous. And that was in the dead puck era when Lemieux came back at that age. So
Yeah, but he also had a bunch of guys with him.
I mean, I'm not okay. Yeah, so does Ovechkin.
He had a prime Yager. He had a. I mean, good on Lemieux, yeah. But going back to Ovechkin, I mean, everybody thought that he was done, and he just seems to defy the odds of his playing style and what he can do. And good on him. I'm glad, and I'm still going to say it again. From the way of it looks, because I was a doubter before, but now,
yeah, I'm back on the wagon.
I think he's going to break the record, and cement himself as one of the greats of the sport. I think, I mean, he's having a phenomenal year. It's not his best year, but it's a phenomenal year, especially at his age. It's great. It's cool. He's at the top of the league, isn't he? Is he not for points?
Yeah, right now,
because he passed Draisaitl
and this is the part that shocks me. It's not so much even the goals or how he's playing. It's the fact that he has this many points. Because if you look at his breakdown of like the last 8 seasons, he's not really like a major point getter anymore. He'll score you 40 goals, but he's only going to get you 65 points, right? And right now, he's already at 58 points. Like he's on pace for 100, no problem this year. So,
yeah. And this is like, I think he played half the season without Backstrom. So
but Kuznetsov has played amazing this year.
Yeah.
So it's about time too, because Kuznetsov kind of fizzled out after that amazing season he had, and it's good to see him make a little comeback because the Capitals need it. And you know, I'd love to see Ovechkin win another cup, provided it's awesome. Not the Leafs.
I mean, like last year. Ever since last year, when we were doing our tier rankings of who's going to do well and who's not going to do well, we argued that Washington was going to do pretty good. A lot of analysts have written off Washington as old and in the midst of rebuilding. And no, they don't need that at all right now. They are one of the top teams in the league. They're playing fantastic. They got an amazing goal scored in Ovechkin that seems to defy the odds. It's really cool to see. And I don't even. Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. Like in and out, I keep forgetting the goalie's name. It's
well, they so actually funny. Have the funny part is they have 2 really good. Well, they're both playing well. Young goalies. Vitek Vanacek, who he originally got picked up by Seattle, and then through a trade they got him back after the draft. And they have Ilya Samsonov. And both of them are playing really well. So, I mean, good on them. It's nice to see. Right now it looks like they're splitting the season. But that's good. They have a decent defensive core. They have 4 lines of solid players. And you have Ovechkin. And you can never write off Ovechkin. It's like having Crosby.
It is so funny because, you know, you mentioned the 2 goalies, and it seems as though a lot of teams are doing that these days, especially when there's a full season going on, that they are looking for 2 top-tier goalies to play for the team because they don't want one goalie in particular to take on the brunt of the schedule.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a shift as well to the NHL in regards to goalies as well.
I think it's a lot to do with contracts, in my opinion. I think it's a good idea in exactly the reason you said it, but I think it's also a weaselly way to not have to pay goalies, because you could be like, oh, you want $5 million? Okay, hit free agency. I'll just run with this guy, and then I'll bring in someone else to back him up. And I feel like that's why a lot of teams are doing it, because you could pay 2 guys $3 million and have like no injuries all season, hopefully, by rotating them. Or you could pay one guy $6-7 million and he gets hurt, and then you're stuck with your backup goalie.
And it's probably like the hardest position to get a spot because you only are allowed a certain amount of spots
Yeah.
for goalies. So it's like,
I
yeah,
don't even know if you can carry 3 goalies anymore. You used to be able to carry 3. I don't even know if you can carry 3.
I think you could do that this year and last year because of the taxi squad, but that's pretty much it. I like regularly,
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Well, like back in the 90s, every team had 3 goalies. Like
Yeah,
it was just like a whole,
except for Jersey,
yeah, they didn't even need any other
they
goalies.
didn't need any other
And
goalie.
whatever team Dominic Hasek was on. But
Patrick Waugh.
yeah. So okay. I mean, I feel like that's it for really NHL stuff. It hasn't been super eventful. And next week we'll come with our tier list or whenever we release it, but we'll film it next week, hopefully. But for the Leafs, I want to talk about Jack Campbell for a second. So he's way up in the league in a lot of the categories. I believe he's leading in save percentage. He's going to get a big contract next year. And if I'm him, I'm not taking anything less than a big contract because he's 30 years old. This is your last chance at getting paid.
Yeah.
So I think the Leafs are going to be looking for a goalie or somebody on this team is going bye-bye.
Yeah.
And it's not Morgan Riley because that contract is very friendly.
It's definitely depends on what Jack Campbell wants to do. It's gonna be tough next year for the Leafs.
Well, look, they have no cap right now, and he's only getting paid what 1.7 million, 1.5, something like that.
Yeah.
He's easily getting 5 million next season.
Yeah. I would say the same thing too. I mean, they're gonna have to possibly look at trading Peter Mrazek if they can, but I mean, you could probably do that at the end of the year. You could still use Peter Mrazek going into the playoffs. Hopefully, they do make the playoffs. But I think they got some options. They got some players that they could probably trade away. I don't think that Nick Ritchie's going to be here next year.
No.
So,
I would argue him and Mrazek are both going to be gone. I agree with you that they could use him for the rest of this year, but I have a feeling if he gets enough play time in, you're going to see him leave at the trade deadline. I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea.
Or, knowing Dubas, he's going to do he's going to make some creative decisions in regards to the cap. He might bring in some players and, kind of like what he did last year and activate them at the playoffs. You know what I mean? Because, there's no such thing as a cap in the playoffs.
And they do need more forwards in Kyle Dubas style. So I'm sure that's what will happen.
I think there is an awareness in the front office, that he finally realizes that he needs some depth on D. He's got some players coming up that will be good in like years to come. But for now, I think he has an understanding, or he finally realizes that his second pairing is just not playing well at all this year. Like they have moments, but they're just not consistent. And going into the playoffs, you need consistency. You need a shutdown pair that will shut down the opposition. Morgan Riley and Brody, as good as they are, cannot play 35 minutes a game.
And we saw last playoffs what happens when you let Morgan Riley play too many minutes. He starts constant turnovers. He gets caught pinching, and we don't need that to happen again.
I mean, last night they played well, but let's be honest. It was the New York Islanders, and the New York Islanders are not playing well this year. Sorry, they're not. So they're able to get away with it. Switch back to the New York Rangers. They were not able to get it done. And that was when Muzzin was out. I believe Hall was out at the time too, because of COVID protocols or whatever the case may be. But they weren't playing last night. So it kind of worked out last night because, I'm sorry, the Rangers and the Islanders are two different teams. So, I think there's a realization that they need to make a couple of changes, need to bring in some guys, some defensive help. yes, people out there are going to say, "Oh, their goals against is great." When I say defensive help, I don't necessarily mean defensemen per se. I mean that they need to they need to bring in some guys that will help other guys play defensively. There needs to be better defensive zone coverage. They need to come up with a system where the forwards are helping out defensively. It would be nice if Cav can share some of his knowledge with the rest of the forward group, because it seems as though he's out there for the majority of the defensive zone face-offs. You know what I mean? But it just seems to me that they need to get a better understanding of what defensive zone coverage is, because to me, when I watch previous games, there are misassignments, not only from some of the defensemen, but from some of the forwards as well. And they just got to get their together to really be successful coming up in the playoffs.
I agree.
So that's my rant on them.
No, I think that's fair. I don't even have anything to say. I think that was exactly correct. Well, that's what needs to happen.
And I think I brought up a question for you with what Keith said the other day, and a lot of the blame is not just on Keith, but it goes to everyone. You're not going to be successful if you're going to play soft and purposeless, a quote that he used a couple of nights ago after the Rangers game. You're not going to be successful in the playoffs if you're going to play like that. You need to play hard for 60 minutes, not 50% of the game, not 35% of the game, not 75% of the game. 100% of the game, you need to play with purpose, and you need to play hard with effort throughout the whole game, because it's just not going to happen if you're going to play half-ass.
I agree.
Sorry.
I agree. But in my opinion, I think a lot of the blame is on him. He's allowed this. He's constantly allowed this since he's got here. And not in the sense that he's bad, but it's on him.
I get that, but I get at the same time, he realizes it. But if he preaches it and they don't do what they're supposed to do, then it's on the players as well. And it's up to Keith, going back to your point, it's up to Keith to bench a couple of guys if they're going to play like that. You know what I mean? He's doing that with Richie, but I don't see him really doing that with anybody else. He benched Justin Hall. I'll give him that. But if there are players on that team that are not going to play 100%, or they're going to make mistakes, everybody needs to be held accountable. Not just players getting paid under $2 million a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everybody needs to be held accountable. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
Not really that much. I saw something that came out today where a bunch of ECHL players got suspended. There was a player last night that got suspended because of a racist rant or racist something racist that was said to another player, and that kind of stuff is unacceptable and should not be allowed in any league. Or
I believe it's happened about 3 times now in January. It happened in the AHL, it happened in the ECHL, and it happened twice. I believe it was twice in like one of the high tiers of men's league hockey recently.
The KHL too.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't understand how. Is it just no one was seeing this before? No one cared about it before? Or is this just all of a sudden all happening? And there's a lot of questions I have. I mean, it's unacceptable, and I don't even need to get into it. It's just unacceptable.
No, we don't really need to get it. I thought I was just throwing it out.
No, it's a good topic, but I feel like there's nothing really to read into here. This doesn't need to be happening. It needs to be controlled. It doesn't need to be
happening. It needs to be dealt with right away, and it shouldn't be allowed in any form of capacity in anything. Leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Anyways, that's all we have, guys. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe. Peace out.